Ladies and gentlemen, this is It's Covered, the insurance podcast, because if you think that insurance is boring, then you are not doing it properly. I am one of your hosts, Paul.
I'm Mel.
Well, we have been talking about interviewing for a little bit. This is, of course, one of the just biggest issues with being an insurance professional is getting the right people in and keeping them. Interviewing does not help with keeping them, but it will help with bringing them in. So we'll discuss later about keeping people.
You get to fix all of your mistakes that you spend countless hours going over when you have the wrong employee.
Exactly. So this is the third part of this series. Don't worry if you haven't caught the other two. You do not need them for this episode. We're just talking about different techniques of interviewing. But I do encourage you to go back and listen to all of our previous episodes. We do keep them up because we think they're useful. We think they can help, and they might touch on something that you might need to later down the road. And you're like, hey, we need to go back to that episode on interviewing. And so we do keep those up, and we do hope that you take advantage of them. Thank you all for those of you who have been jumping on our website at itscovered.net, getting the free ebook that is designed to help agents deal with claims and customer service during claims. That is free on there. We do encourage you to get that, who are joining our Facebook group. Both of the links for those are going to be in the show notes, but we really do appreciate that. So back to interviewing.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about a technique in interviewing of role playing. Now, I said last episode that this was more of a kind of a new one for me. And it's not that role playing in an interview is new to me.
Just in the workplace.
What I was going to say the situation that I ran across that I'm going to describe a little bit later was new to me, and to just the extent that it was taken, that I really, really liked. But role play in general has been around for a long time. The kind of the classic of "sell me this pen," question has come up tons of times in interviews. I remember one time, and I loved it. I loved this. We had an interview, and I sent you outside to pretend like you had to grab something out of the car or something.
Yeah. And
you called in, and I handed the person the phone and a quote sheet. Said, "Get the quote."
Yeah.
I
remember that.
And that actually worked out really well.
Yeah. It went good. I thought, she handled herself well. And
yeah, that was the weirdest situation though, because we called to offer her the position.
Yeah.
And she never called back.
Oh yeah.
Well,
there was a lot of weirdness after that, but
then she tried to friend one of our coworkers on Facebook.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing? Because you said no to this job, or you didn't say yes, I should say. She never actually talked to us again.
Yeah, that was a weird situation. But I mean, the interview itself helped us make a decision. Yeah. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Just the eagerness where she just grabbed the phone.
Yeah.
And went at it, She's like, okay, I'm game for this.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was really good. So that, we started that then, and that's something that, I intend to continue. A lot of people do something like this, even if it's just simply kind of a "sell me this pen" question. Mm-hmm. For salespeople, it's like, let's take the role that you are going to have from now on, and how are you going to do it? And so that's really effective. Having people take phone calls, but the one I was exposed to that I very excitedly told you about.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Took this to a whole new level. And this was a particular insurance company for an adjuster position, but I know other people do variations of this. But it was not a role play question. It was a let's make up a job for you and have you work it for a while.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool. So the first thing they did was to put the candidate in a room with a set of instructions that are many pages long, a set of forms and stuff that they're going to need for this simulation. And in this case, had a CD player that was reading the instructions through. And the instructions took 30 minutes to read over the CD player. And that's important because the point of it was that the candidate doesn't have like just 3 rules that they apply everything to. The candidate has way too many rules to remember at any given moment. And how do you organize that and make sure that you can do it? And so what happened after that was a series of interactions and simulations. Some of them were on paper. Some of them were in person. You had employees coming in pretending to be customers or vendors, arguing with you. Everything was how do you handle this high pressure thing? And everything was moving so fast, and there's a ton of paper involved in this. And so, like, after every interaction, there's paper just scattered everywhere, and the candidate needs to keep it organized. And so it's measuring how well you follow instructions, how organized you are, how you interact with people, and how you deal with stress all at the same time. And this is a test that I took, and I could tell right away that it wasn't necessarily just about getting all the answers right, because they did not look at my papers before they told me I passed the test.
Oh wow!
And so, they were looking at how I handled the people and handled, keeping everything together, and they realized, okay, he's doing well enough that, unless he just completely blows it on the paperwork, he did well. And I told them, I was like, that was a fantastic test. And they looked at me like I was drunk, which I was, of course. I'm joking. That did not happen. And they're like, normally people don't have to, and I said, look, I never want to do that again in my life. It was intense. But it was very cool. From as somebody who has hired people before, who has interviewed people before, it's like that was just a really cool measurement of how people can do in really adverse situations.
Yeah. And see, when you were explaining that story, I mean, it was great. I was like you, like, wow, that was amazing. Of course, I picture myself going through it, and I didn't like it. I was like,
I didn't like it.
There's my first thinking on that is, you're doing this on a position to hire somebody who is going to leave pretty soon. Because that person who does well on that job, you're not paying them enough.
That's hilarious. Maybe that's why they didn't have to look at my paperwork to know I passed. Their standards are actually so low. If you actually make it to the end without crying, you're in.
You're gonna be great.
And they did tell me that they've made people cry before.
Wow.
So the whole thing took like an hour 45.
Wow.
Something like that.
Wow.
The instructions were a half hour, and there were like 4 interactions with people, various people, like on the phone. They would call up, and you have to answer the phone and identify yourself properly, and and do the interaction and collect information over the phone. Then someone would come in and have this, and then a vendor would come in and argue with you, and they really laid it on thick. It's like at one point the guy said, you must be new at this. Why do they always send me the new guy? I'm just sick of having to explain to y'all how this works.
Wow. Wow.
That's probably where the person cried.
Yeah.
So it is they were really kind of pushing like the worst case scenarios on you all at once.
Yeah.
And if you held your own and you handled it, if you got a few things wrong, it's fine.
Yeah.
You can handle the pressure.
There you go. Now, if they can just get you to, on a regular day when you have that worst day ever, if they can get you to not go home and think about how much you're making, then that would be excellent. But again, I'm just putting myself in that situation, and I don't think I would do as well as you did, Paul. Well, even though if I were to get in that situation, I'm sure I would handle it well. It's just,
I think you could do it. Like
during an interview. Wow.
Yeah. No, it's rattling. And that's the great thing about it. So it made me think about this. Like, the role plays that we have in our interviews, the sell me this pen conversation or answer this call stuff. It's like that's stressful because it's an interview. But the question itself isn't as stressful as just being in the interview. And I like this because it simulates the stress of the job itself rather than simply I'm nervous because I'm on an interview. And how are you going to react to that? See, I think you would do fine because I've seen you work where people have called up and it's like, how, why did you do this? Yeah. You have destroyed my life.
Yeah, that's exactly how they put it too.
Right,
you have destroyed my life.
Right.
I hope you feel good about yourself.
Yes. All that's left for me is to die since my insurance policy isn't exactly proper.
Yeah, exactly.
So
after taking that test, I think I would have to fake a heart attack and just to see how they handled the pressure.
See how it feels.
That's right. When the paramedics arrive, pop up and go, not bad response time. Not bad.
Oh, so I was thinking about like how and how I would implement this here, how I could get a sense of that.
Yeah.
And I really just, I really like the idea of, giving somebody a set of rules to go by for the situation and making them apply it with, us going in and out of the room. One thing we used to do in claims for the new people when they were learning how to set up a claim is they would do role playing calls. And there were a group of us that always volunteered to be the person on the other line.
Yeah.
Because, we had fun with them. And I always played a British chap that was married to a very abrasive Southerner who had this like little yappy chihuahua that I hated. And it was just my go-to.
Nice.
But, the point there was to kind of throw them off their game, to say something that they weren't expecting, to go in a different order than you wanted them to go.
Yeah.
To see how they handled it. And it's the same thing, the same concept. Now, I don't know that I would want to put together 30 minutes worth of instructions. That's pretty intensive. Yeah. Whoever came up with this test, and I don't know if it's online or anything, maybe stuff like this has been put together and is online. You can use it. Yeah. Might be worth a look, but whoever put together this test spent a lot of time on it. And that's great. I don't know that I want to spend that much time on it, but there are some kind of principles that we can get out of it is when we're doing the role playing to jostle them off their game, to even as simple as going in a different direction than you're expecting it to.
Yeah.
The problem with the sell me this pen question is that's always the question.
Yeah.
And okay, and it's a variation. It's okay. Well, then sell me the stapler, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the same question, and it doesn't zig, you know? If you're going to do that. But then let's layer an objection to it. Let's come in. Let's interrupt it with an upset customer. Let's set down some guidelines. These are ways you can calm down the situation, you know, that you can do for the customer to make them okay with things and make them try those things out.
Yeah. I mean, with giving them those instructions, I mean, you're not looking at, you know, them failing or wow, they're, you know, really did bad. I think you want to know for your agency if you had somebody that really killed it over the phone.
Yeah.
And you gave them a list of instructions and they did decently. You feel better about having them in here and it's going crazy and there's a walk-in that comes in.
Yep.
You feel a lot better staying on the phone and saying, hey, can you just help them real quick?
Yep.
Because you know they're, regardless of what comes, they're going to handle it.
Right.
Now, if there's somebody else who didn't handle that well and you think you can train them, in the first week, if that situation arises, you may not send them to go handle the person who's coming in upset, you know, about their policy. You may just say, we'll be right with you.
Right. Well, and I'll say that, you know, like if you give them the, you know, I'm an upset customer, and you give them a list that these are 5 things you can do, you can offer the customer without authorization to help them feel better.
Yeah.
The pass of that test is not going through all 5 of them.
Yeah.
That's the distraction to
Gotcha.
How do you speak to the customer?
There you go. Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And so, you know, the twist in the scenario, the whatever you're putting in front of them to make that puts them in a position where they're uncomfortable and unfamiliar with what's coming next. That is just the distraction to get their mind, you know, off of the pre-programmed script that they came through the door with.
Right.
And see how they actually react.
Yeah.
And so if they go through the 5 solutions and you say no to all of them and their response is, well, that's the best I can do.
Yeah.
Then you have your answer, you know?
Yeah.
But you might already have your answer from before they gave you the first option.
Right.
If they sat down and listened to you and really empathized with you and was very kind to you, you might not need to hear any of those solutions.
Right.
And so that's the kind of thing you can do. I like this test too because it put several different scenarios back to back and made you jump from one to another. And the paperwork in and of itself was a really nice touch because there was so much of it. And most of it was just really stuff we could combine onto one piece of paper. But that was the point where they were testing to see how organized I was. You know,
nice.
And when they walked in, and the first thing they saw when they walked in at the end of it was that everything was returned to its order in folders and organized in a stack.
Nice.
And so what did that tell them? You know?
Yeah.
And that's part of them being able to say right off the bat, hey, you passed this test. You know, look, you treated everybody well. You held yourself, you know, very well, even against opposition, and you were organized. At that point, do we really need to see if I misspelled somebody's name on a form? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've been thinking about this and I don't know yet how I would put it together for this agency, but I know I want to, you know, I know that this is something that I want to do because I thought it was such an amazing, effective test.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through it again.
Yeah.
And you obviously don't either.
No. It's, I just picture the feeling. I know if they asked you to come do it again and they said, you know, hey, Paul, we would like to ask for you to come participate in another test, pretty similar to the first one, you'd probably have about the same feeling I had when I found out that I took the wrong licensing test.
Yes, and this is the thing that happened.
And yes.
Oh,
and passed, and then found out I had to take it again.
I was so upset too, because we were just opening this place, by the way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I, you know, and I was the first one. I was the first one, starting. Mel had already, you know, it was already planned for you to come in.
Right.
But you had to pass, get the licensing test done.
Yeah.
And, our other coworker also testing.
Yeah.
And so I was by myself, just like, can y'all finish the test, please?
Yeah.
And you texted me with your score.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Oh, this is great. And then you were like, why did the test say adjuster though? I'm like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
You're just, there's nothing else I can do but kill you.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. And then when my wife is going, hey, that's funny. You took the same test that we had to take in claims. What?
And that was your next question. It's like, do agents and adjusters take the same test? No.
Yeah. And then that feeling comes in of, I have to do it again.
Yes.
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I can imagine that, that interview, process is, I can understand when you say, I don't want to take it again.
No, it was glorious. It was glorious. But I could do without it again. So, all right. So that's thoughts to go on. And this is one of the reasons that I really like y'all to join in on the Facebook group. Cause, you know, this is a topic that's kind of new in my thoughts that I haven't really thought very deeply on yet. And I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on the whole thing. If you do something like this, how is it set up? You know, if we can put our brains together and come up with a really cool system of interviewing people, I think it'd be really neat.
Yeah.
But to do that, we need to hear from you. And the easiest way for us to have a back and forth is in that Facebook group. Now we really do appreciate you communicating with us through iTunes reviews. We really do appreciate the emails. We really do appreciate the messages, on all the social platforms, but please do click on the Facebook group and join us, because that's where we can really kind of dig into these topics and figure them out as a group to make us all better at our jobs.
And we know you have a Facebook. Everybody has a Facebook.
Yes.
It's kind of like saying, oh, I didn't watch that show on Netflix because I don't have Netflix. We know you have Netflix.
Yes.
Just
You're trying to impress people, but we know.
Yes.
It might be under a fake name.
That's right.
Just send us a message before you ask to join and say, hey, I'm really this person, and I am an agent or an adjuster or whatever.
Yeah.
So that we don't look at you and go, that's not a real person.
Yeah. So we don't have you clicking on little square pictures with buses in them.
Right.
Just let us know ahead of time.
Oh gosh. That was, and I didn't actually finish the latest special by, John Mulaney, I think is his last name. But he has this incredible bit. It's his Netflix special about how much time we spend proving to robots that we're not robots.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's, that's exactly what we're doing too, is trying to prove to a robot.
He goes into this whole thing. It's like, look at these letters, how wavy they are. Surely no robot could read these.
Well, a robot is looking at that going, I don't know.
Oh, my favorite part about all of this is that I have a lot of trouble figuring out those letters because they're not normal.
For me, it's never the first two or three. It's always that third or fourth one.
Yes, yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I got this, and you get to the third or fourth one. What?
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, I refreshed it like several times. Like, no, give me another one. No, give me another one. And I'm finally like, okay. And it says, that it could read it for you. And so I clicked the button and it told me the letters. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is supposed to be a test on whether I'm a robot or not. And I, a human, could not read it. So I asked the robot to read it for me. This test to make sure I'm not a robot that the robot just read.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I think something's fishy here.
That's a flaw. That's a flaw.
Oh, so we do have extensive tests in the Facebook group on whether you're a robot or not.
Yes, there's
most of them.
We have to crack down on those robot agents.
Yes, most of them have to do with, I tell you that that Melvin lies. Everything he says is a lie. And then Melvin says, I am lying. And if smoke starts coming out of your ears, we know you're a robot.
That's right.
I think that was in Star Trek or something. It was great.
Because our test was formulated by Ivy League students to...
It's Star Trek.
Oh. Well.
I'm sure there were Ivy League people there.
Yeah. We're smart. We did it.
Between the two of us, we make up, like 1.5 smart people.
Yeah. If we can't figure it out, we'll just call you.
We're really going to leave now. I really do appreciate you joining us today. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be back on interviewing at some point, but yeah, we wanted to kind of hit on at least a few ideas about it here. Yeah. And, but rest assured we will be back next week with a topic that, you deal with on a regular basis as an insurance professional. And, we will see you then.
Bye-bye.